And now, with our final special guest, Rick is going to come up and give us the all-important update on chairs and pews and what's happening there.
Yes. Okay. So, yes, coming on behalf of the seating committee, we'll call ourselves. And again, we have been tasked to collect information and relay it to you, the church, who we as a body will be deciding on what we do. Bottom line, renovations are expensive, and you gotta spend at some point in some way. So I've got just some of the stuff that we've been researching and been doing. I've got my slide clicker here. So first was the poll that you guys went through. It was kind of spontaneous, so we called it the seat of the pants poll. And we had 3 questions on the poll. Do you prefer pews or chairs? On a scale of 0 to 10, how strongly do you feel about that? 0 being could go either way. And then the bonus, just for our interest, was, are you a member? So we'll go through the answers here. So we had 181 total respondents. Thank you. It's pretty impressive. 98 paper, 83 digital, and there were 3 spoiled ballots, and they actually felt sad because it looked like people who were so excited, but they missed a box. So go ahead. So this is the way the numbers shook out in terms of just numbers of ballots cast for the first question. 106 felt preferred pews, 72 for chairs, but there's more to it. We broke it into members and non-members, and I found a couple things interesting, that there was actually people felt pretty strongly, even not being members. If anyone's like, stop, I don't quite understand, we can stop and I can go into more, but I'll just kind of flip through as quick as I can. So this is the average of the strength of the feeling for how you felt about it. So on average, people felt a little stronger about the pews than they did about the chairs. Interestingly, the non-members felt more strongly about the pews, and the members felt a little more strongly about the chairs. Interesting. Okay, you may have learned something about me. I do like graphs. I'm kind of a chart nerd. I'm sorry. It's amazing what you can do with just 3 questions. This is just a count of all the votes and how people split it, but then I summarized it in a weighted total. So this was the number of ballots cast times the strength factor of 0 to 10. And so after all that, we have 62% in favor of pews and 38% in favor of chairs. So all that to say, what's next? What do we do with that? I mean, we were kind of hoping that it would be like 100% chairs or 100% pews, because then our job would be really easy. But now we've got to give you more options. So we'll go through. Logically, we have kind of 3 main options. 1 is stick with all pews. 2, switch to all chairs. Or 3, a combination of both. I'm just being logical here. So we'll go. So if we stick with all pews, we have, again, 3 options. 1 is to refurbish the existing. Now it is going to take some work and some money. We've got to prepare, we've got to fill in sand, we've got to prime, we've got to paint, and then we have to reupholster. So a number of steps involved in that. Another option would be to replace with brand new pews. Lovely, okay. Another option would be to replace with used pews. So I'll look at some of the costs of those in the future slides, but next we have option 2 would be switch to all chairs. Now here we hit a snag, and I know one of the big draws with switching to chairs is that, we can move them all aside and have a great big multi-purpose area. We can put round tables, we can have a little dessert night, whatever. Rod brought in an engineer who did this pro bono, which was very great. And when they had all the ceiling torn apart underneath, so they went in and had a look, and unfortunately, we are not able to have this as a big open area, and there is an engineering reason for that. It's because the building is built for a certain loading, and the load calculation for fixed seats that cannot be moved is 50 pounds per square foot. And if the seats can be moved and you can have a big open area, they have to engineer it for 100 pounds per square foot. So there's major structural differences between the two. It's not just a preference thing. And the conclusion of the engineer is that if we did want to be able to move all the chairs aside, for one, we would have to get an engineer in to provide us a report, which would probably be $25,000+ right from the get-go. Not to mention all the physical improvements that would need to be made. He noted definitely beams and probably foundation improvements. Not a small thing. So that's a major thing. So from there, that would mean that we've got to. Oh, maybe it stalled on me. We would need to be affixing the chairs to the floor. There's a little bit of provision for maybe like removing a row up the middle, and now that brings out another bit of an issue. I mean, even just affixing them to the floor, if you think we've got 300 chairs, that's 1,200 screws going into our brand new floor, which pains me quite dearly. So another thing is the layout, and I know there's been talk about changing up the layout. People have mentioned River of Life, which is lovely. Is they have a wider building, and so they have aisles on the outside, so people can enter, and then they have an aisle up the middle. So that works great. But here you can see in the back corners, we have no access to have an aisle coming in from the outside. So we would be stuck with the only option would be either the two aisles like we have it, or really long rows coming out to an aisle in the middle. So just again, something to put in your brain there. Capacity is another kind of a big one, and I mean, even in the summer here, we've been hitting some pretty big numbers. And so if we take our current seating capacity we have like roughly 41 pews, 12 feet long, and if you're sitting shoulder to shoulder, you can get 8 people in a pew. It's usually like weddings, special events where we see that many people packed in a pew, but you can get 8 adults in a pew, maybe 10, 11 if you have some smaller kids. So you can really pack people in. So I just estimated on 8 people per row. Chairs, we'd be losing some space. And based on the same linear footage, it would be 278 people. So that's a loss of 12.5%. And when we're already like, how do we make a little extra seating? We've got to factor that into our calculations here. So the third option would be a combination of both, and this could look different in many different ways. We could have pews for most areas. We could have maybe chairs for seniors, for accessibility seating. You could take some out to have wheelchair access or strollers, that kind of thing. And we could also put some in the overflow, which I think is probably going to happen anyway. We could also kind of redo the balcony. There's a bit of sporadic spacing. I think they were sort of built at one size and then just sort of fit in there. So there's some gaps that we could fill in and actually make a little more seating in the balcony. And maybe, again, I think it's a bit of a gray area, but we could probably do maybe the first 2 rows in chairs if we wanted some flexibility for moving things out. But first row, which I think was already out, but we'd have to talk about that. Costs. It's a hard one in a Mennonite man in a Mennonite church. So if we're talking refurbishing, we've got, like I said, 41 pews at 12 feet. We had a quote for new fabric and foam, nice high quality stuff, like this is commercial, built to last sort of stuff, $17,000. The upholstery removal installation, $4,000 to $6,000 as an estimate. Prep for the painting. So this is where, and Rod brought in a professional painter this week to assess our pews. He saw there would be extensive prep work needed, a lot of filling, a lot of sanding, and he estimated, I mean, really, really rough here. And I'm hoping, I believe this is on the high side because who would make a low quote? But he had it broken down in terms of hours, but it came out to about $24,000. The paint and materials would probably be another $2,000 to $4,000 for the fillers, sandpaper, and paint. So our estimated total here for refurbishing the pews would be $40,000 to $50,000. So option 2, used pews, and they're out there because this is not an uncommon thing that churches are going through. They can be had for between $100 to $400 each. So if we're looking at replacing the whole lot of them, that could be $4,000 to $16,000. Of course, freight needs to be considered because they take a lot of space. We also need to consider the condition of those used pews because maybe they're beat up just like ours. So again, these are things, and we want to hear from you guys, from some feedback to be like, yeah, pursue that. We'd like to know, maybe find some listings for pews and let's have a look, that kind of thing. So just, again, keep this all in mind as information. New pews, really, I didn't get any formal quotes yet, but on average what I'm seeing is about $80 to $150 per linear foot for a new pew, and those tend to be solid wood. And I think I mentioned on one of those stickies at the back, but our pews are actually, they have solid wood end caps and tops, and then the backs and the bases are plywood. So just another FYI. Yeah, so might be looking up to 75 or 40 to 75,000 for new pews. Chairs, we got some quotes on a few options for these. There's 2 main brands, it seems. So River of Life, we have one in the foyer there. The ones that they got, they would cost us 300 chairs for 24,000. They have a little bit, I don't know, more supple, or maybe there's pins so people don't fall asleep, something. 25,000, so quite similar. Another option that we got was from a place in Florida, and they've got, in USD converted to Canadian, the first option was 23,000, and the second one, we did just get a free sample from them in the foyer as well, so 26,000. And that doesn't include the screws to fix them to the floor or brackets that we might need. And also, because we're on a sloped floor, we would have to custom order them so that it doesn't feel like you're falling out of the chair when you're sitting down. So apparently they can make consolations for that and trim the legs at the back, but it would be another custom add-on that's not included. Recliners, I don't think is an option, sorry. This, we'll cancel it there, Clay, and we'll see. Yeah, we've got some more stuff to talk about, but this will get the ball rolling on this side of it. So I don't know how to conclude that. Good luck.
Well, thank you, Rick, first of all. Can we give Rick and the team a... As a congregational church, we want to be upfront as we make decisions, as we process what is best for our congregation and our group. So we're very thankful for people like Rick and people who are on this seating committee, I think because he coined it, who are putting the hard work to figure out what is best and how can we allow this space to actually be used for God's good, for God's good and glory, which is the ultimate goal here. So think about it, pray about it. I'm sure Rick has more information and things that he could and would like to share with you.
Yeah, just one final thing. There is a pew at the back facing the little kitchenette there. Rod did some work on it, and there's a few spots there. He's kind of sanded it and just did a natural finish on it. There's a couple of stains. There's a couple of paints. So, and then there's another end cap of one of the pews, and we thought, we could even put a routed profile on the side just to give it a little bit of pizzazz. So just check out the stuff at the back there. Feel free to touch and feel during coffee time, the pew.
Wonderful.